just for the Zoom.
Yeah, you can buy them by the meter, can't you, or something? Yeah, Lisa. Instead of having flowers,
wallpaper.
yeah, instead of flowery wallpaper, you can have books.
That's what Vicky Hall's got in the bar at Victoria Hall Theatre.
Is it?
A wall of books that's just wallpaper.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Who else are we expecting?
John's meant to be coming in. He's Strachan.
I saw him today. At Arsenal playing tonight. I saw him today at Community Embrace, and he said, I don't know what he said, if he is coming or not. Let me just see. If Arsenal playing, he won't be coming. Oh yeah, they are. 8:15 they start, so should be fine.
He should give his apologies if he's not coming.
That's what I thought. I can't remember what he said to me earlier. I should have really remembered, but it's a bit of a busy day.
I spoke to him a little while ago. I thought he was coming then when I spoke.
Yeah, I think he is. I assume he is anyway. I think he was joking earlier when he said, I'm not. You never know with John.
No. Wherefore art thou?
Oh, there he is. He's got nice flowery wallpaper as well.
Is
We are back.
I might put a light on actually, bear with.
Okay.
Oh. Hiya.
Hi, Maggie.
God, I need to get a desk.
That's it then.
Who else are we waiting for? Do we know?
The only other person on the committee is Lainey. I've not had apologies from her, so I don't know if she's due to attend or not.
I might be due to work. I might drop her a message.
Oh dear.
So, where's Nancy?
Chair, just to confirm that we're live on YouTube, just to let you know.
Hello. I'm sure there's a million people tuning in. Most riveting meeting of the year. I've just messaged Lainey. She might be working actually. I've not heard from her either. Let me see. Oh, she says Hannah, are you okay to send her over the Zoom details again?
Yeah, I'll do that now for you.
Oh, thank you. She is coming. Should I wait till she's here if she's coming to start?
Perhaps we'll all go for a tea break.
Yeah. Everyone get a hydrate. Ow. Okay, I might just start Oh, I don't know. Is anyone in a mad rush?
I haven't got anywhere exciting to go, funnily enough.
Anyone else doing anything?
No.
Any places to be tonight?
We're not going anywhere, but 7:30 is 7:30, not
Yeah,
quarter.
no, it is true.
Right.
Okay, I think we'll get a start and then Lainey can join
Yeah.
when she's
Yeah.
able to. I know we mentioned it briefly earlier, but obviously Tony Hall is not here tonight, Councillor Tony Hall, due to resigning due to ill health. Obviously, I wish all his family well and I wish him well, and you know, I want to thank him for the work he's done on this committee through the years and the work he's done as a councillor. So yeah, sending my thanks to Tony. I'm sure one of the councillors in contact with him will obviously send that to us from the Labour group. There's no apologies for absence. Moving on, apart from obviously Lainey will be joining us shortly. Any declarations of interest? No. And if we could just go to the minutes then. Oh, I was going to say quickly before I begin as well, because I can see you all on my screen. If you do want to raise your hand, just raise your hand. Don't worry about doing the raised hand feature, because I can see you all fine. So if we want to go to the minutes now, does anyone have any questions or comments about the minutes? Are they all agreed?
Such a long time ago.
I know, it really was. It feels like it, wasn't it?
Was it
Well,
March?
I was.
10th of March it
10th
was.
of March, yeah.
And are there any matters arising relating to the agenda? No. Any? I'm not aware of any written questions or petitions from the public, so we'll move on to.
Sorry, Councillor Jezard.
Oh yes, sorry. Carry on.
Sorry.
Apologies, Councillor.
I think Michael had his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Michael.
There was
Go
a
ahead.
recommendation to full council in relation to electronic payment affairs, and that will be heard at full council on 17th July, which is the first available council after which the licensing team would be able to implement the recommendations. So this is a point of clarity. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Michael. So yeah, move on to the committee work plan now, if everyone wants to scroll down to it. And I believe this is obviously something that we can, you know, add to and revise throughout the year. But this is obviously the current work plan. I know I spoke to Michael earlier about implementing a licensing team service plan, but I do think it is going to be quite a bit of work for the licensing team to put together. So from my understanding, it's not, obviously that's why it's not on the committee plan yet, because we're not sure when that will be available.
I didn't understand what you said that was.
Oh, that was, I'll go to Michael now. He might be able to explain it a bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure I won't do a better job, but I was just going to launch into it. So thank you. So we licensing team discussed with the chair the possibility of inserting into the work plan at some point, hopefully this year, a licensing team work plan, somewhat like the health and safety work plan. That's it's a health and safety team plan that is on the council's, on the committee's work plan, and the food safety work plan that the committee have seen sort of regularly, which will just be a summary of the resources going in, the kind of work that's being done, you know, throughout the course of the year, and give the opportunity really for councillors to sort of see what the team is doing with their time. We do have today a summary of the enforcement activity that we've taken, but that in a way, while it's helpful, is sort of out of context with the day-to-day things that are going on behind the scenes, and just thought it would expand on that and give the committee a better insight. So I think the licensing team welcome that, and we will work on that, and we will come forward at one of the meetings with a proposed date for it, I think. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank
Councillor
you.
Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions, both interrelated. The first is, are we certain that all of these will hit their deadlines, given the fact that some of these items may need to be reworked due to the effects of returning to a new normal post-COVID? And has the portfolio holder for recovery given us any advance notice of any items that are likely to come before the licensing committee, again due to recovery from COVID?
Chair, in terms of the work plan, that as the licensing team currently know it, we think we have the capacity to deliver those, but I do acknowledge that it's a sensible question in the circumstances, and we will revisit this at every meeting and try to confirm that. In relation to any new work coming forward, any sort of substantial change to licensing duties, while the legislation's changed at this date so far, I'm not aware of anything that would require, say, a change of licensing policy that the committee would have to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments about the work plan? Councillor Garnett.
Yeah, just on the second item penciled in for September, fees and charges. It's got as required. What's the interpretation of that, please?
Thank you, Chair. Well, some fees and charges require us to go through a consultation period, and if the sort of review that take place as part of preparation for budget setting indicates that fees and charges ought to be changed, then we actually have to go to publishing our proposals, and we would have to consider any representations. So if there is a proposal to change particularly the fees that apply to private hire vehicles, we need a report there to bring that to committee. Committee can approve.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more? Are we all okay to agree there?
Yep.
Yep.
Bear with me.
Yep.
One more. So if we'll move on to item 7 on the agenda. I'm really bad at reading this off my iPad when I'm looking at another screen as well. If anyone has any questions or comments about that. The subcommittee decisions. I did note that I wasn't actually on the committee on the 5th of March, but I believe I've already raised that with officers. Councillor Churchill.
Thank you, Chair. I was just looking through. I noticed, obviously, I'm not expecting an answer because it could be of confidential nature, which the subcommittees are. But I noted that on the 9th of April 2019 meeting, there was an appeal and the decision was overturned. I wonder if officers could send me details of actually what happened and why it was overturned. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Michael.
Certainly, team would be happy to confer with legal colleagues over what we can share and sort of try to inform the committee on that.
Brilliant, thank you. Are we happy to take the recommendation to note the contents of the report if there's no further comments? Brilliant.
Yes.
So that is
yes.
Recommendations passed. So we'll move on to number 8 on the agenda. Let me just scroll to it. And this is the enforcement activity. If anyone has any questions or comments about that. Councillor Churchill's first.
Thank you, Chair. First off, I'd like to record my thanks to officers for all the hard work they do during the year. I know it's not easy. They're a small team, but they really do work very, very hard trying to keep this town safe from a licensing perspective. Now, I noticed in paragraph 10, table 1 and table 2, there's a couple of bits on there. One of the Hackney carriages, reason for vehicle suspension, structural corrosion on 3 Hackney carriages. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about how this wasn't picked up at the annual inspection, because corrosion is going to happen over a period of time. And I would suggest that, well, it's flagged up to me that there's a something's being missed somewhere along the line there. I think I'm a little bit concerned about that, particularly as it's structural corrosion, because that, of course, would make the vehicle unsafe. If someone could tell me why it wasn't picked up at the annual inspection as a potential problem further down the road. And on the private hire, I just note that tyres and brakes, there are 5 failures on that. I would say that is something which we need to look at as well from an enforcement point of view, because drivers are meant to be checking their vehicles every day. They're meant to be making sure the tyres are legal. They're meant to make sure their brakes are working because they're carrying passengers. So something's gone wrong there. And, I would encourage officers to look at these areas a little more than they may have been doing. That's not a criticism, it's just a suggestion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Michael. I don't know if you want to respond to that quickly.
Yeah, I can't give full detail on the structural corrosion issue because obviously I wasn't present at the test. But I think I would suggest that the annual tests are done to MOT standards, and there is a line after which it will fail. So it's not necessarily the case that a vehicle shouldn't have passed the MOT test and then was found not to be not to be compliant at an enforcement test. But I think the concern is reasonable that some of those vehicles are now quite old, and it's part of the reason why we sort of do this kind of work. And we are coming up to a point where actually we're sort of seeing some of the older vehicles effectively phased out by emission standards. I hope that may improve some of the condition of the oldest vehicles in the fleet. And I think it is certainly a valid point about tyres and brakes, the only point that contacts the road. And every driver does have that responsibility. And I think it does point up the value of doing as much of this work as we can. So I think it's a point well made and noted by the team. There is something of an improvement in the percentage of vehicles failing this year, which is slight good news, but we will carry on doing it as much as we can. Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councillor Garnett?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'm on the same track as Councillor Churchill. I'm amazed that 50% of the vehicles tested fail. That's a high number. One wouldn't expect it as the vehicles that are carrying members of the public. You'd expect the odd one or two, perhaps. But I've just answered part of my own question because I was going to say comparison to the previous year, which was again 50%. So it seems to me that 50% is almost becoming standard. At 50% are suspended. Now, can I just have confirmation, Mike? Sorry, I'm rambling on a bit here. But those that are suspended, they come back, I take it, for a retest, and you check on the work that should have been done. Is there a time limit on that? And they can't use the vehicle during that period of suspension?
Chair, with your permission, absolutely, yes. They are suspended until the fault is rectified. And in terms of the sort of number suspended total, it was 61.8% last year. So it's a slight improvement. And I should perhaps say that there is a certain amount of risk assessment in determining whether certain categories of vehicles are brought in. So if we know that we've got high mileage vehicles, then they might be more likely to be called in to have their tests done. Still, we'd like to see better than 50%. I do agree with councillors on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Michael. Councillor Johnson?
Thank you very much, Chair. My question is more around the drivers of these vehicles that are suspended. Obviously, we all know things go wrong with vehicles, and it can't necessarily be one person's fault if something has gone wrong. What do we do if a driver consistently over the years keeps getting stopped, failed and suspended? Do we take any further action?
Thank you, Chair. I think in principle it is possible to take the view that that driver is not a fit and proper person to have a vehicle driver's license and to review the license. And And indeed, I suspect that if we had a persistent non-compliant driver who failed to take any notice of his vehicle being suspended and was regularly having his vehicle suspended, that's what we would be bringing to his attention. And in due course, he would be before councillors at the subcommittee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Is there any more? Is that Maggie with her hand up? Or yes. Councillor Holcoop.
On page 14, item 12, the compliance checks. Have we got a breakdown between the Hackney and the private hire on these figures that we've got written down here? That's the question.
Michael is probably best placed to answer that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Chair. So in item 10, the Hackney carriage reasons for suspension and private hire.
Yeah.
Councillor Holcoop. Yeah. Well, there are separate tables there. So one table relates to private hire and the other to Hackney. So
it was item 12.
I understood the question.
Yeah, the compliance checks. Item 12 on page 14. We've got all these things.
I apologise if officers haven't made that clear enough, but item 12 is in relation to compliance with Licensing Act.
Right.
So these are visits that we made to premises with Licensing Act 2003 licenses. So there's a small heading which says Licensing Act. It perhaps could have been bigger. So apologies if that's misled.
And just as item 13, just as a sort of an overview, when the scrap metal policy came in, we weren't sure what the reaction we were going to get with subcommittees, etc. Am I right in thinking we haven't had any subcommittees on the scrap metal side, which is a very good angle, that we haven't had any problems with this?
I think you're right in suggesting that no scrap metal dealers have been brought to subcommittee. No. Although I think with the limited enforcement resources, we are focusing perhaps on Licensing Act and taxes and so forth. To be able to do a bit more with scrap metal dealers. I mean, that's not a massive inspection total in the course of maybe saying more about that than how compliant now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holcoop. Any further questions? They're both all good questions, actually, that I'm glad you all asked. No. Are we happy to take the recommendation to note the enforcement activity carried out by the licensing team?
Yep.
Brilliant. So that's passed. And then we'll move on then. This is probably record time as well for a meeting. Any matters of references from other committees? I don't believe we have any. No, so we'll just move on. Any matters of urgent business? I've not been informed of any. No. Then I think we're all done.
Well done, Chair.
Thank you. I hope you're all staying safe and keeping well. Oh, sorry, I've got a notification in my ear. So yeah, I guess we're done if there's nothing else. Thank you, and I'll see you